Hey everyone, welcome to this next Python tutorial on functions. We're going to learn about how to write a function in Python and learn about some of the features of Python functions such as default values and flexible arguments. So to start, the keyword which we use to define a function is def. So I want to write a function that takes in two numbers as arguments and then adds these numbers together. So I write def and then I write the name of the function. This one I'm going to call add two numbers. And then parentheses where I can put any arguments. I'm going to call my arguments num1 and num2. As we've already seen, indentation is important in Python as it determines the beginning and end of the function. Everything that's indented under this function definition is inside the function. So we're going to write the body of this function. And return this sum. An immediate thing to note is that we haven't provided a return type. So this is determined dynamically based on what we're actually returning from the function. In the case of the function we've just written, we're returning a number. If you don't return anything, Python returns none by default. Also, note that there are no argument types, so this is also determined dynamically based on what you pass in. We can then call the function in a similar fashion to C. So I can say that result equals and call this function by its name. And I'll print the result. I'm going to run this function over on the right hand side here. As you can see, it's printed 13, which is 5 plus 8. Since Python is interpreted and runs from top to bottom, functions need to be defined before they are called. So I'll show you a counter example. If I move this function below where it's called, if I run this again, you can see an error saying name add two numbers is not defined, since on line 1 where we're calling the function, it hasn't been defined yet. Great, so now we're going to have a look at how Python can allow a variable number of arguments to its functions. First, I'll quickly demonstrate what happens if I don't give the correct number of arguments when I call the function. So if I only pass in one number to add two numbers, I get an error saying that add two numbers is missing one required positional argument. And then if I try passing in too many arguments, I get another type error saying that the function takes two positional arguments but three were given. So the first concept is default values. Function arguments in Python can have a default value. If an argument has a default value, passing in this value is optional during the function call. Let's do a quick example. So here we have a function which takes in a name and prints hello to the person. Say we want to give a default argument, such that if a name isn't given, we want to print hello world instead. We can provide a default argument using the equals operator. So under this definition, I'm going to call the function twice. For the first call, I'm going to provide a parameter for name, so I'll write Anna. For the second call, I'm going to leave out the parameter. So running it, I can see with the first call it prints hello Anna, and the second call it used the default argument world and printed hello world. The next concept is flexible arguments. Sometimes we don't know in advance how many arguments are going to be passed into a function. So this Python feature of flexible arguments allows us to accept an arbitrary amount of arguments in a function. We can denote this by putting an asterisk before the argument name. So say we want to write a function which adds an arbitrary number of numbers together as opposed to only two numbers. Let's call this function addNumbers. So I only need to provide one parameter, and I'll put an asterisk behind this parameter to specify that it's a flexible argument. Inside the body of this function, I'll keep a counter called sum, and I'll loop through the list of numbers, adding the current number to sum each time. Let's try calling this function with 4 different numbers. Running this program, we can see that the output 26 was correctly provided. So that's all for this video on functions. Thanks for watching.